Hey guys, Demoman here with another video. That's right, today we're going to be talking about capital ships. And you might be thinking, whoa, capital ships? Yep, but to be more specific, we're going to be talking about more combat-themed capital ships. In the next capital ship video I'm going to focus on the civilian ones, like the Orion, the Hull E, and the Endeavor, and other ships like that. But in this video, we're going to be mainly focusing on the combat sort of themed capital ships. So the Polaris, the Idris and its different variants, the Kraken, and the Javelin, of course. Now this is going to be an overview of how these ships will interact with one another, how you will interact with said ships, and basically what a rough outline of what each one of these does, their strengths and weaknesses. So without further ado, let's hop into the video and get things started. So we're going to be doing this by size. We're going to be starting at the smallest all the way up to the biggest. And we obviously know the biggest is the Javelin and the smallest is the Polaris as of right now. So the Polaris is basically a corvette class capital ship that's basically a U-boat. It's designed to hunt down and destroy targets before targets even know it's there. I'll get more in depth to why that is, but before we do, we will read the overview of what they've written in the text. The Polaris is a nimble corvette-class capital ship that packs a powerful punch, with a full armament of turrets and torpedoes, intended for use as both a naval patrol ship and to serve as a flagship of militia operations. The Polaris has the capacity to perform search and rescue operations, light strike missions, and general security patrols. The Polaris includes the facilities to repair, rearm, and refuel a single fighter, light bomber, or support ship. Now, the Polaris, right, so first off, we gotta get one thing straight. The Polaris has light armor. It is not designed to take punishment at all. Like, this ship is basically built around the idea that you have to avoid trouble. You launch your torpedoes. It's supposed to have one of the most advanced missile targeting systems available. It's a very new ship. It's designed to be able to lock onto something before that something even knows it's there or basically being targeted. The Polaris packs a very, very deadly punch, and that's the trade-off. It's fast. It can go through large, jump points, and mainly capital ships usually have to go through the really big jump points, but the Polaris is just about big enough to nip through the one size smaller. It makes it a very strategic ship to use. It's not going to be cheap to run, however. The Polaris is going to be a very expensive ship to run, especially if you're planning on using it to its full effect. So we're going to go over the bits and bobs of what it's got on board, and then I'll go into more detail why. So, bits and bobs, components, you know it, we got it. Right, so let's jump into what it says here. So, radar, capital. Now, this is very significant, and I'll get into why a little later. You have 2 medium computers, 1 capital power plant, plenty of power. You got 2 medium coolers, 2 large shield generators. Remember, this is not a frontline quarterback, I'll take the hits kind of ship at all. It's a glass cannon. You have 3 large fuel intakes. You have 2 medium fuel tanks, 1 large quantum drive, 1 large jump module, 1 large quantum fuel tank. That's pretty decent. As for your thrusters, you have 2 retro, 4 main, and 12 fixed. Now they have not decided upon the size of these thrusters yet, which is interesting, but I'm guessing they're going to be capital, or, at least. I mean, this ship is designed to be fast for a capital ship. So for turrets, you have 5 dual-mounted size 4 turrets, and what that means is each turret has 2 guns. You also have 1 dual size 5 and 1 more dual size 2, which is a remote turret. The 5 turrets are manned, however, and so is the other one. So, as for missiles, you have 4, obviously, launching points. That is size 10 torpedoes. These are huge. They are massive. Like, these are almost the biggest in the game. They're absolutely gargantuan. These are the kind of things you're going to use to break the spine of an enemy capital ship. And you've also got 2 size 2 missile racks on board, each rack containing 16 missiles. Now, that's probably for targeting smaller craft and whatnot. You're not going to be chucking size 10s. I don't know why I just did the arm movement of actually throwing something. You can't see that though. But yeah, like just lobbing size 10s, like, oh, just gonna throw these because I can. Still doing the arm motion. But yeah, size 10 torpedoes are a nightmare. If you are a capital ship captain and you hear, you know, the whole, "Sir, torpedoes off the starboard bow," and then you find out they're size 10s, there'll be sweat pouring off your brow as you're like, well, there's got to be something we can do. It's like, you look around and your crew is already looking for the escape pods. Basically, size 10s are a bad time. You do not want to be hit by those bad boys. They are vicious. So, for your specifications, that's right, I said it like that on purpose. Your length is 155 meters, beam 82 meters, height 35 meters, size capital, mass 17,155,000 kilograms, damn straight. You got 216 cargo capacity and everything else is not yet determined, other than your minimum crew is 6 and your maximum crew is 14. As I said, it's more of a U-boat. You're not going to have that many dudes aboard. And that's a plus in my eyes, especially for a capital ship, and I'll get into a little bit more details in a moment. So, the Polaris. With all those things and all those specs and all those gadgets taken into account, what does it mean? What does it mean, Demo Man? What does it mean? I hear you cry. Well, what it means is you have got one bad mamma jamma if you own one of these suckers. It is a mean machine. The Polaris is the only capital ship as of right now that is able to lay some serious smackdown without even you knowing it's there. It can basically arrive, kill you, and get the hell out of Dodge without even a scratch. You may be wondering, what the hell are those engines like all over the place at the back there mean? Well, you may notice this thing has got a bunch of auxiliary engines. And you may be wondering, why the hell does it have auxiliary engines? If you're not wondering that, you already know what I'm going to say next. Those are for when you're going to your attack speed. Now, the Polaris has this, basically it's built around this design purpose of, it jumps in, it's tracking its target, it knows what it's there to hunt, or it's patrolling a sector, its capital class radar detects something like an Idris or a Kraken, or God forbid, something worse. That's the point where you're able to make that decision of, right, do we attack said target, or do we back away? You have a relatively small crew. Now that's another bonus. I see more Polarises being flown and actually used their maximum potential, you could say, than any other capital ship in the early months of use in terms of in a dedicated combat role. When you've got the credits to actually fund something like this, it's going to be something you'll be able to spring out relatively easily. The Polaris is designed also with another huge leap forwards in capital ship design in general sort of ideas and whatnot is the corridors. The corridors are designed in such a way that, God forbid you do get boarded, you're able to actually stage a meaningful defense. The corridors are specifically designed for first-person combat, which is pretty good. And you may be wondering, well, it's not designed to get hit or captured. Why is that? Well, it does have a brig, and people may be able to escape. If that happens, you want to be able to mount a proper defense in case these guys are able to maybe get some firepower from some of the guards, or something along those lines. But the Polaris, the threat of one alone, should be more than enough to keep people at bay. And that's what people keep glossing over, and they think, oh, light armor, oh, it doesn't have those big of components, it's not this brute force kind of thing, it's not what I'm interested in. Well, that's where you're wrong. The Polaris hits like a sledgehammer that's basically got a stealth cloak wrapped around it that is soaring through the sky at 200 miles an hour. It doesn't matter if it can't take a punch, but it can sure as hell deliver one, and if it doesn't kill you on the knockout blow right away, it's probably going to cripple your ship. So, the Polaris, and why is a capital class radar significant? Well, the Idris and the Kraken have large radars. I know. What that means is, you're able to detect stuff quicker than they are, at a greater range than they are. and the Polaris is going to have basically a smaller signature. It's a smaller ship by a huge margin, but it's also capable of running stealth more efficiently, I would say. You can shut down your shields, put minimum power to your engines, put everything to the radar. The second something blips up, just put all power to your radar and to maybe your weapons, and you can coast along, basically just waiting for that blip to come back, send out your radar, you got your target highlighted, and then you'll be able to make some real decisions, and the other capital ship will not even be the wiser. They'll be flying along. They may have a slight blip thing that shows up, but it'll only be a minor disturbance, like you'd probably get from maybe a wreck or something, and they'll mainly go unnoticed. And what they won't realize is it's a fully armed Polaris corvette tracking their every move. So if you own a Polaris, here's the good things. 1. You're able to destroy things pretty efficiently and quickly. You've got a small crew complement, so you don't have to worry about not having enough people to man the thing. You should have at least 14 people that are more than willing to jump aboard this. You're able to carry aboard a fighter. Now, what I would recommend is carrying something that has a good radar on it, maybe because they're planning on making it so radars can be linked together, so you can actually send information back and forth. Maybe have a terrapin you can send out ahead, or something along those lines. Or a stealth ship, you know, so it can sneak in undetected, or deal with fighters that are trying to attack you whilst being undetected. Something along those lines to complement what you already have. Or if you really want to, maybe a couple of Argos for transport down to a planet and back and forth. Though the Polaris is more than capable of landing on a planet. So some of the bonuses are: 1. It's got a hell of a payload. 2. Low crew complement. 3. Amazing radar. Great, able to detect things. 4. It's able to go through jump points smaller than regular, like other capital ships have to go through. It's about the size of a reclaimer, the Polaris. So it's not a small ship. This thing is absolutely massive, but at the same time, it's not too big, like unmanageable kind of size. It's a pretty decent size. Drawbacks. Now, this is, first of all, this first drawback is only a drawback if you use the ship incorrectly. You do not have the tanking ability to face tank something like an Idris or a Kraken. You cannot do it. You will die. Your hull is not designed to take that kind of punishment. Your shields are definitely not designed to take that kind of punishment. And a lot of your components are located, the important ones like your reactors are actually located on the sides. And things like this, like all your main components are located around the outside shape, because the middle of this thing is a whole huge hollow empty space where the hangar sits, and then everything behind that is just living quarters and that sort of stuff. Your main components are along the outside sort of layer, you could say, just beneath the armor of your ship. You're not designed to take punishment, you're designed to give it. The bridge is located at the front. You take a front hit from a railgun, it's not going to be pretty. You're going to basically looking at scrambled eggs as what your crew maybe used to be on the bridge. So that's one of the drawbacks. Drawback number 2, this thing is going to be hella expensive to run. If you want to use it correctly, your fuel costs and your general running costs and your components and all that jazz are going to wear out pretty quickly if you're basically using your auxiliary engines all the time and you're firing off torpedoes. Those things are going to cost a bomb. No pun intended. They're going to be mega expensive because they are huge. Their payloads are nasty. It's just a savage weapon. So yeah, that's no doubt going to be very expensive to fire. So yeah, those are the main drawbacks. That's basically all I can think of for drawbacks, really. I mean, the Polaris is such a kick-ass and cool ship. I mean, if you were to basically land this thing, go by the rule of cool, you're going to win every time. I mean, this thing looks so cool. It's basically like a Star Destroyer without the bridge thing on the back. So it's going to have that really nice silhouette. When you're coming down to land on a planet and someone sees that like classic Dorito shape coming in, they'll be like, oh no, I know what that is. Well, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a very, very cool ship. As I said, the Polaris is the punch and drop them before they know what hit them kind of deal. So yeah, that's the Polaris. One other quick thing to note before I forget is the Polaris, it has another thing about it, by the way. It does have escape pods. Now that is a very important thing to remember in this video. Escape pods in a game that basically has permadeath, that permadeath is not going anywhere. Trust me on that. I'm going to cover that in another video, by the way. It's a very important feature to have, especially for keeping crew morale if they're players. Another thing, if you have NPC crew, when they permadie, they're gone. If you have escape pods, you might be able to salvage them, and that's pretty good. The ship has a pool table and a revolutionary new design in crew compartment kind of living, so that's pretty groovy. And that comes into play in another thing. Capital ships, you might be thinking like, oh yeah, I own this ship, I'm gonna just take it out and put it away at the end of the day. That's not really how you use a capital ship. A capital ship is designed to stay out for multiple days, doing missions and running things like that. It's an adventure you commit to with you and your buddies, and maybe if you have the credits, you and your NPC crew. It's something you commit to. You set a schedule, everybody logs off and logs in at roughly the same time, or you have a rotor where people keep the ship running 24 hours. It's completely down to you. But taking this thing out and landing it at a station every day is a really inefficient way of running this kind of a ship. If you're out to do missions and stuff, keep it out for a while. Polaris could probably easily run for maybe a week, you know, out and about on the trail, you could say, or doing its patrol missions, going from system to system, only stopping for quick refuelings and things like that here and there. Yeah, that's how you use something like this. It's a real sort of like, it's your ideal kind of Star Trek, kind of sci-fi, Battlestar Galactica adventure. That's what capital ships are for. It's a completely different type of gameplay to what most people are used to at the minute with the ships in the game right now. So yeah, capital ships make for really fun types of gameplay. It's a really cool thing to do. And another awesome thing to add to your Star Citizen story is to be, oh, I served on this capital ship as we went round the edge of the Vega system and we encountered the Vandul and all this awesome stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty groovy thing to do in the game. So let's move on to the next ship in our list here. So the next ship in this list is, of course, the Idris. The Idris is the next one up in size. So, the Idris, we're going to be first talking about the Idris P, which is the most tame version of the Idris. Now, the big difference between the M and the P, as the dev stated recently around Christmas time, with the last sale I think it was, but yeah, they basically wrapped this up and they covered how the Idris P is basically has all the military stuff removed, including, now this is something I must stress to you guys, the armor. It does not have the same armor as the Idris M by a long shot. The Idris P has civilian grade armor, and there's a very good reason for this also. So, first off, let's read what it says. A Mark II Peacekeeper variant developed for the UE Patrol Services. The Idris P strips the standard ship-to-ship gun and a spinal mount in favor of additional cargo capacity and superior speed. So, that's the Idris P. Now, the Idris P, my honest opinion, is a very sad Idris. It is not a happy Idris at all, and that's probably why the K upgrade came out, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The Idris P, it's in a very sad position. It's trying to be a carrier and a stripped down frigate at the same time. It does not have any teeth on it in terms of general firepower. It has defensive weapons only. What you basically have here is a really good hangar for 3 ships and a good command and control platform that can tank a few hits on its shield, but other than that it does not have much going for it in terms of firepower. Once the shield goes down, it's done for. It has civilian grade armor on the hull. That'll be chewed through in no time. So let's go through some of its specifications. So what we have here for avionics is a large radar and 6 medium computers. So for propulsion we have 2 capital fuel intakes. We've got a capital fuel tank, a capital quantum drive, a capital jump module, and a capital quantum fuel tank. For thrusters, we have 6 VTOL thrusters, 2 retro thrusters, 2 main thrusters, and 13 fixed maneuvering thrusters. Systems, we have 2 capital power plants, we got 2 capital coolers, 6 medium coolers as well. We have 2 capital shield generators and 12 medium shield generators. As for weaponry, it has a size 10 slot, but there is literally nothing in there. It has 4 size 4 Revenant ballistic Gatling guns on it for turrets. 2 guns per turret. Size 4s. It's not so bad, I guess, but it's not so great either. And it has 6 size 5 CF 557 golden ring laser repeaters times 2. So you got the 2 guns per mount on each of these turrets. That is not enough firepower. I'm sorry, but it really is not. That is just such a shame. It is such a shame. So now we're going to go on to length. It's 233 meters long. It's got a beam of 126 meters and a height of 46 meters. This thing is gargantuan. It's big. Okay, it's huge. Size capital, of course. Mass. Oh god, okay. It's got a lot of mass. Alright, so I'm just going to shout some numbers. 37-310-200,000 kilograms. Basically, it weighs a lot. Let's just leave it there. It weighs a lot. It's not something you're going to be bench pressing anytime soon. Cargo capacity is 995 units. It's not going to be paying for itself anytime soon. Your minimum crew is 8 people and your max crew is 28. That's not so bad, but still it is a fair few people. 28 people aboard something that does not have the firepower I would send a capital ship out. I would never send a capital ship out with that amount of firepower. That is no. 28 people? God no. Alright, I'm going to cover this in more detail. Okay, now, if you own an Idris P, before you snap your keyboard in half, I just want to say, listen, it's not all over. Don't worry. I got a lot of good news for you in this video, okay? There's a lot of stuff for you to work towards. And that's what the Idris P is. That's the way I see it. You know how you see some guys with that Mustang in their driveway, and it's up on blocks, it has no wheels, it's maybe missing the fenders, and the engine, and maybe the lights, and the guy's always saying, yep, gonna get round to fixing that car, it's my project car, and it's been there for like 20 years now. And it's got a really weird shade of orange. Yep, that's what your Idris P is, baby. The Idris P, however, it has some good components on it. It's not a slouch. It's supposed to be quicker than the other Idrises, but that's generally because it doesn't have the fancy gun and some of the other bits and bobs the others have as well. It's missing a lot of weight. The Idris P does not pack the armor you want it to have. If the shields go down, you will take some serious punishment. Your worst nightmare is literally coming across a Polaris. A Polaris is bad news, or a Kraken. The Idris P is the more tamer end of the spectrum. Your shields will hold for a while, but only long enough for you to get out of trouble. But the Idris also has another feature. It's a mobile command center. You've got enough crew space to basically send out groups of Marines. You can do all sorts of things. It's a really, really cool ship. The Idris P, in my opinion, is really good in terms of, I like the idea that it's a carrier. It's an enclosed carrier / command center. It doesn't have the big gun, and that makes sense. It's more of a carrier. Now, it is a frigate in its role. It is a frigate. It's not a corvette. The Polaris is a corvette. This is a frigate. But it's a frigate that wants to be a carrier, which is an interesting place to be. It sits in a very interesting position in terms of where it is in, like, the game. So here's the bonuses. Now here's the good parts. It's big. Okay, I know that's not a good one. Alright, so really good points on the Idris P. The Idris P is the quickest Idris you've got. Now that's a bonus. If you want to have something you can send out, like basically a really big police car, you want to really rapidly respond to stuff, it is perfect for that. It is a really good search and rescue ship. It's one of the best. You can basically put multiple ambulances on board this thing and the fighters to protect them and go to somewhere and really lock it down. You got the shields to go into an active war zone and recover people. This is the hero Idris, in my honest opinion. That's what this ship is. It may not have the guns and the teeth to basically go toe-to-toe with things and charge them head-on and be like, come at me, bro. But it's there to pick up the pieces from those who have tried and failed. It really is a remarkable ship. It has the Idris huge dome radar command center. It's got one of the best bridges in the game. Sure, this is it. It does have a large radar like the other capitals, but that is just a balancing mechanic, or else the Polaris would be a little bit outgunned in terms of how it's supposed to work. But it makes sense. I'm happy that these ships have large radars, but the bigger they are like this, it makes sense for balancing. But yeah, the Idris P is the first start of your adventure. It is a way of buying a capital ship and not removing your endgame goal at the same time. Now, something else I must stress. This is a org ship. This is by no means a solo person ship. If you are one person who has maybe a group of buddies, this is not a ship you'll be able to take out basically almost ever, and use it properly at least. This is something for when you're in an organization and the time has arrived and they've turned to you and gone, yes, it is Idris P time. That's when you go, oh yeah, it's mullah time, and you pull out your Idris P and you go out there and you go on some amazing adventure for about like 2 weeks. It's like a holiday almost. And like I said, the capital ships are for dedicated players and you'll have a blast. The Idris P is fantastic. And I can tell you now, there'll be no greater thrill than flying into a combat zone and going in to rescue some people knowing you're outgunned. And yet you have this huge behemoth of a ship. It's like, well, we can't take him on in a toe-to-toe, but we can hold him off and rescue the people. That is so cool. I mean, there's nothing that will bring you more of an adrenaline rush than that. Knowing that, like, literally, you're on the line. You know what I mean? Time is your enemy. But again, this is a really good anti-piracy ship because it's able to easily dispatch smaller ships. That's fantastic. So yeah, that's the Idris P. The drawbacks, however, there are a few. It does not have the bells and whistles of what a general frigate has. It doesn't have them. It has light armor. It's expensive as hell to run. You're not gonna make your money back with this ship, even in the slightest. It's how you spend money. That cargo capacity is generally for more or less supplies, and maybe you can run some armored transport missions and make enough money to pay the crew, but not to cover the ship's overall expenses. So yeah, it's a generally good ship, but it's a good starting off point. So, the Idris K. Now, the Idris K is basically what I can imagine happening to an Idris P if it was basically hijacked by some cyberpunks. Basically, you can imagine a group of guys, they've got their like technicolored mohawks and their like maybe 1 or 2 glowing robot eyes, and some of them have got robot limbs, and an Idris P, they find it in a junkyard just sat there. Like maybe that guy didn't restore it and they're like, you know what dude, we can totally do something with this, you know what I mean? They just climb aboard and attach a whole bunch of stuff to it. So let's read out what it says. This aftermarket upgrade kit, initially produced for the UAE government seeking an improvised patrol protection plan, will bolster the offensive power of your Idris P. Take your Idris P from deterrent to destroyer, with a loadout carefully created, for the specific purpose of repelling, engaging, and hunting attack fleets and other capital class vessels. So, this will come with lifetime insurance. If you already have this, it will be upgraded to LTI. They've already explained that, so there's no need to worry there. So what do you get? You get a goddamn size 10 Hurston Dynamics Exodus laser beam. I mean, holy macaroni. You get this size 10 laser. And you might be thinking, well, you know, it is just a size 10 laser. Just a size 10 laser, unless you want your ship looking like sushi. I would not get in the way anytime soon. So, bonuses and drawbacks. Okay, size 10 laser. That's pretty good. You got other weapons too, like you got the Buring M2C PDS. You got 2 of those. You got the Amon and Rees Harrow anti-ship missile launcher. You got the Buring M2C PDS. Another one. Well, you got 4 of these suckers. You get an Amon and Rees. You get 2 more like missiles here, and yeah, this is just insane. You get a load of new bits and pieces basically to put on this sucker. So, you get a whole bunch of improved weapons. You get beefier guns. You get missiles. You actually have some teeth now. You're able to fight with both hands. The Idris P that was used to basically having to get out of trouble is now able to punch someone in the nose as hard as physically possible and stand laughing as its enemy hurls towards the floor covered in its own blood. Basically, the Idris P is the no-nonsense, I've been through hell and now I'm back for more kind of ship. It doesn't have armor. It still has civilian grade armor, which means the second the shields go down, you're gonna feel it. But at least you have the firepower now to basically go down kicking and screaming. Here's a problem. They've already explained that they're not gonna upgrade the reactor power, and because it's a beam weapon, we know that it's gonna draw a lot of power. So you're gonna need to put all power to the weapon to fire this sucker at full effect. And that means your shields are going to go down awfully fast. But to be honest, I think the aftermarket kit, the K kit, I think that should have been the P as standard. If I'm perfectly honest with the way that they're going right now, I think this is what the P should have been all along. But yeah, this is the Idris K. It's a monster. It's basically, this is something you can use multiple of at the same time. It has the same drawbacks as the Idris P, however. But here's another drawback that I have for this ship, and it also doubles for the M, this one. It's a frigate trying to be a carrier at the same time that has its biggest gun that is fixed. Now, most people can complain, oh, it's a fixed gun, that's not a big issue. Okay, you have a fixed size 10 gun strapped that cannot turn to the left or the right on its own to a ship that has horrible maneuvering. Horrible. Now, maybe in a capital ship versus capital ship conflict, that'll work a little better. But from what I know, in general capital ship conflict, and the way it's most likely going to work is people won't be so close. Then there's the range problem. The further something gets away, the smaller it gets. And people are like, oh, it's like a dartboard, I can hit it just fine. Now put that dartboard 2 clicks out and you'll have more chance of hitting a penny. That's the problem. But it's an Idris P. It's got a little bit more thrust and forward momentum than the Idris M, which means you should be able to pursue and destroy a little bit more effectively. So the Idris K upgrade essentially is that perfect medium between the P and the M. Right, so let's talk about the M. So the M, the most iconic Idris, the one we have seen now for years. Now, the Idris M is a very unique ship. It has none of the penalties that the Idris P has in terms of its fighting capabilities, and it has a whole lot more on the table. You gotta remember, the Idris M is a standard used ship by the UEE, and it's been used for a couple of 100 years. These ships are old, and the Idris Ps are basically just repurposed ones of these. They've had their armor and their weapons removed. The Idris M, larger than a bomber, but smaller than a ship of the line, frigates occupy an interesting space in the pantheon of warships. While they lack the heavy armor and capital weaponry of a cruiser, frigates are more maneuverable and are highly configurable. That's what the blurb says. So, length, 242 meters. It's a little longer than the Idris P, but that is just because of the gun. That's all it is. The gun adds more length to the ship. Beam is the same, so 126 meters, same height, 46 meters. Capital size, of course. Cargo capacity is a little less, 831. Trust me, this is not something to be using the whole cargo with at all, to be honest. You got a large radar, you got the 6 medium computers, you got the 2 capital fuel intakes, you got the capital fuel tank, capital quantum, capital jump module, capital quantum fuel tank. You got 6 VTOL thrusters, 2 retro thrusters, 2 main thrusters, and 13 fixed maneuvering thrusters. Power plants, 2 capital, coolers, 2 capital, 2 medium coolers, shields, 12 medium shields, and 2 capital shield generators. And then it goes to weapons where things go completely off the chain. So, the Idris M is a tank. In all due respects, this thing is a monster. It comes with military-grade components, unlike the other two. This thing is an absolute behemoth. It can take a serious amount of punishment. If you see an Idris M and you are not equipped to handle it, leave. Do not fight an Idris M. If you can avoid it, do, because this thing can rip you in half in literally moments, and if you do have the tanking ability, that won't last long. It will outlast you. It's not a pretty thing to come up against. A few Idris M's, like maybe even 2 of them, I estimate 2 Idris M's could easily take a javelin. And I know there's some people that are like, no way. Well, they've got more maneuverability, and they've got the advantage of being able to hit it from 2 different angles. And they have a lot of tanking ability. And they got range. Like that railgun that it has, that mass driver, that has a lot of range. It's one of the longest ranged weapons in the game as of right now. And I'm hoping that they're going to keep that going. You know, obviously that is a trade-off. The further something is away, the harder it is to hit. But having that range on that sucker is nasty. You're launching Volkswagens at people. So you have a size 10 destroyer mass driver. That's designed to kill a Kraken in like a hit. So yeah, there's that. Let that sink in for a moment. Then you have the 2 size 4 Revenant ballistic Gatling turrets. You got 7 M9A laser cannons, size 7 M9A laser cannons. You got 2 of those on the nose. Size 7 laser cannons, people. These are big guns. You then have 5 size 5 CF557 Goldarine laser repeater turrets. And there's 2 per turret, which is pretty handy. Then you have the 5 ASM 2C Stalker VTL CS 10 missiles. That's size 5 rockets, and you have 10 of those. It's a lot of firepower. It's a lot of firepower. That's more than enough to break the line of an enemy fleet. The Idris M obviously is your monster. It's your heavy hitter, but it's not something you'll deploy all the time. But when you do deploy it, it means you mean business. Thing is, when this sucker does take damage, it's going to be a nightmare to repair, because that military grade armor, as we know with the repair mechanics, you need that same material to repair it with if you want to have the same effect. If you repair it with light armor, you will literally have patches of light armor all over your ship. That basically means you're giving it vulnerable points, and that is literally like going in the wrong direction, in my honest opinion. The Idris M is a behemoth. It's a monster. It's a tank. It's a complete and utter brute. Bonuses. You can basically kill almost anything. Drawbacks. You cannot chase much. You are a defensive and an offensive ship, that is true. You have fantastic medical facilities. You have a brig. You have an armory. You are literally a mobile command base. That's fantastic. That's all good and well. But there is obviously drawbacks to this. It's super expensive to run. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that you're going to be running with just a couple of people. Maximum crew of 28, I would advise using the maximum crew at all times. This is not something you want to send out with anything less than that. Or at least have NPC crews, like, you know, to make up the difference. But yeah, the Idrises are unique ships. Now, this is a drawback all the Idrises share together. Their VTOL engines are mounted on the sides, and they are super exposed. If you want to kill an Idris, and I mean this is the best way to do it, you need to hit it with something hard and fast in the sides, really generally just the sides, because if you take out some of those VTOL engines when it's trying to land on a planet or it's flying through atmosphere, this thing is going down fast. As we already know, they've specified that capital ship's biggest weakness is planets. There's even a whole lore post on a Bengal carrier that was killed by one. It couldn't break the atmosphere. The gravity well, I should say, sorry, as it tried to chase down some bandits and ended up as a pirate base. So, same goes for all capital ships, really. If you take out their engines, they're going down quick, and that's the problem the Idris has. Is its engines are really vulnerable, and they tend to explode when they get hit, and that's a problem. And if you have focused fire weapons, if you are an Idris captain and you can see an enemy Idris, you can hit those engines from the front, you can hit them from the back, you can hit them from the top, from the bottom, but most likely you can hit them from the sides. So that is a major drawback. And then there's obviously, as I mentioned before, the running cost and all that jazz, and these are not money-making ships at all. So that's generally Idris in a rough wrap and cover. So that's basically going to wrap up our first part here. Now, I didn't realize how long this is getting, and it's taken me quite a few days to get all this information together. and all the new information that is. So yeah, this is the first part, and the second part we'll be talking about the Kraken and the Javelin, and then we'll also be talking about how all of these ships will interact with one another. I really am sorry for having to make this a two-parter, but it's just taking such a long time to make, and I do have other stuff I have to be getting done as well. So this is now like over 39, well, we're talking 40 minutes, people here. I mean, this is a big video. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to the channel and watching these videos. You literally are the best. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. If you like what I do here, please subscribe, leave a like, write something in the comments. Let's get a chat going. I can talk to you when I get free time. Also, if you want to support the channel, please check out the Patreon. You can support the channel now from as little as $2 a month, and it is what is helping me be able to actually play Star Citizen and make videos myself, because I use Shadow PC right now because my PC is literally just a toaster. So yeah, thank you guys so much. So, if you're looking for a Bar Citizen event, then why not check out Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas? A really awesome group of individuals. They host this Bar Citizen event, and yeah, you should check it out. In the description below, we have a link to their Discord, and yeah, you can have a chat with them and see if you can attend and whatnot, you know, and ask them where they are and where the next event's being held. I can tell you now that they are some of the nicest individuals I could recommend to you, because yeah, a lot of the guys there are actually in my organization, and they are really awesome individuals. So go check it out, Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas. So all the appropriate links to in the description, below. So check out the description for links to groovy and awesome places. Yeah. Also, if you'd like to purchase some ships all year round rather than waiting for an anniversary sale, check out the link to something called Star HANGAR. Don't have the echo effect, don't know how to do that. Gonna work on it. Someone could tell me in the description, it would really be helpful. I use Sony Movie Studio, I know. Anyway, check out Star HANGAR, use the link in the description below, and it'll take you to an awesome website. If you're a hardcore Star Citizen fan looking to buy ships, it'll be like a kid in a candy store. You'll be like, wow, wonder and amazement. It's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, except for Star Citizen fans. Check it out. I'm going to be making a dedicated video about their site very soon. So yeah, yet again, thank you guys so much for watching the video. See you guys in part 2. So you know the drill, Commanders. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.